Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the course of Academic Reading and Writing. Dear students, the topic of today's lecture is Defining Vocabulary in Context. I'm your teacher, Muhammad Asif Khan, lecturer, Department of English, Kohat University of Science and Technology. Dear students, agenda for today's discussion is that first of all, I will review the practice 1 and 2 which we already did in our previous lectures, and after that revision we will move towards finding meaning from the context. And in this exercise, first of all, I will give you a paragraph and you have to read it carefully. And after that, we will try to find out the meanings of some of the words which I have listed here. And I think that these are difficult words. And we will try to find out the meanings of these words from the context. After this very exercise, I will give you some small practices and in which I will provide you a very short passage, and you have to identify the meaning of one of the important and the difficult word in that very passage. And in this way, we will try to practice this very thing, that how we can determine the meanings of unfamiliar words from the context, which is very important skill for reading comprehension. Now we are going to start from the review of the practice 1 and practice 2. In first practice, we talked about establishing the facts. And in that very practice, we discussed that how with the questions like who, what, when, where and how, we can identify that what does this piece of writing tells you and what happened in that piece. In the same way, in the second practice, we discussed another important question, and that is very important question, and that question is why question. And when we discuss that question, actually that question relates to the finding of the main idea of any passage. So the first exercise was about getting the essential information. And we see that as a reader faced with the text, we go through a process, and the first thing which a reader should do is to establish the facts. And when we ask the questions that are who question or what question or when, where and how question, then actually we are trying to identify or establish the facts. And in this way, we establish that what does the piece of writing tells us, or what happened in that piece of writing, or to whom, when, where and how that very thing happened. So if a reader finds the answer of these basic questions, it means that the reader is really comprehending that very text. So first exercise was about getting the essential information, and the second exercise in which we discussed the why question, in which actually we were discussing finding the main idea. As a reader, we see that we determine these very facts within a piece of text not only for our own sake, but we are trying to find out why the author is writing this piece. And when we answer this question, that why the author is writing this piece of writing, actually we find the main idea. This very question, why the author is writing, it means that what is the main idea? Because there is always a motive behind every piece of writing. This was the review of first 2 lectures. In the first lecture, we discussed that how we can get the essential information from the text. And in the second practice, we tried to find the main idea of any piece of text. Now, the third important practice which we are going to start now is finding meaning from the context. Or another way to express the same thought is that defining vocabulary in context. Sometimes when we are reading, we come across different words or phrases that are unfamiliar to us. We might be lucky to have a dictionary handy to us and we look up that word or phrase, but if we don't have a dictionary, what we will do? How can we understand what we are reading if we don't know what all the words that are there in that very text? What are the meanings of those words? The answer is that we can use the rest of the passage. And the rest of the passage is the context. And this context will help us to understand the new words. So today's lecture is finding meanings from the context. Now I'm giving you a paragraph and you have to read the following paragraph carefully and mark it as you go, but do not look up any unfamiliar word or phrase in a dictionary. Now pause for the moment and read it carefully. Welcome back. I think as you read, you may have circled some of the words that are unfamiliar. Did you circle obscure and proliferate? If so, don't look them up in a dictionary yet. If you do a little detective work or a work of active reader or a critical reader, you can easily determine their definitions by looking carefully at how they are used in a paragraph. Let's start from the word obscure. How is this word used in this paragraph? The lines where this word is used are: the shows transform waitresses, hairdressers, investment bankers, counselors and teachers, to name a few, from obscure figures to household names. Even if you have no idea what obscure means, you can still learn about the word by how it is used in this very paragraph or by examining the words and ideas that are surrounding this very word. And when we do this very practice, that we look around or examine the words and ideas that are surrounding this very word obscure, actually we are determining the word meanings through context. Like an active reader, we must look at the passage for clues that will help us defining this very word. Now we have to look at what this sentence can tell us about obscure. Well, since the shows transform waitresses, hairdressers, investment bankers, counselors and teachers from one position, that is obscure figures, to another position, that is household names, that immediately tells us that an obscure figure and household names are two different things. Furthermore, we know from the sentence that the people in the question or the people under discussion are involved in typical everyday jobs, and these jobs are of waitresses, hairdressers, bankers, etc., etc., and that from this position they are transformed into household names, which means they achieved some level of fame and notoriety. Now we can take a pretty good guess at the meanings of this very word obscure. Before they become household names, the waitresses, hairdressers, investment bankers, counselors and teachers are famous and notorious, unknown and undistinguished, or they are unique and distinctive. Now you have to guess the meanings from this very sentence, that what is the meaning. There are three choices. A is famous and notorious, B is unknown and undistinguished, and the option C is unique and distinctive. Yes, you are very right. The correct answer is B. It certainly can't be A, because we know that these people are not yet famous. The reality shows will make them famous, but until that happens, they remain obscure. Answer C does not really make sense, because we know from the passage that these people are waitresses, hairdressers, investment bankers, counselors, and teachers. Now, these are all very respectable jobs. I'm not saying that these jobs are not respectable jobs, but they are fairly common jobs. So they wouldn't be described as unique and distinctive. So option C is not the right option. Furthermore, we can tell that why option B is the correct answer, because we can substitute the word obscure with the word unknown or undistinguished in the sentence, and both these very options will make sense. So this is the first exercise which we did, and we find out the meanings of the word obscure from the context. But before going into finding the meaning of the second word which I have told you, that is proliferate, I will give you a quick review of what we have learned in practice 1 of the critical reading, and I will give you a small review of finding facts. So one of the reasons people participate in reality TV is that it has the ability to take ordinary people and make them famous, as we have learned from this very paragraph. What is another reason people participate in reality shows? Just tell me. What is the other reason people participate in reality shows? I am giving you 3 options. The first is for money, and the second option is because they feel lucky, and the third option is because they are bored. Just try to find out the answer of this very question using the fact-finding technique. If we go through that very paragraph and have a quick check of the facts in the paragraph, it will tell us that the answer is A, and that is for money. Now, let's move towards another word, and that is proliferate. What does the word proliferate mean? Look again at the sentence in the passage in which the word proliferate is used. Whatever their attraction, these shows are among the most popular on television, and every season they proliferate like weeds in an untended garden. Again, if we have no idea what the word proliferate means, we can still tell what kind of word it is. And this we can do by the way it is used in this very paragraph, and by knowing the surrounding and context of this word, we can find out the meanings. You know, for example, that these shows proliferate like weeds in an untended, which means not cared for or looked after or neglected gardens. Therefore, you can answer this very question. And the question is, proliferate is a word that is associated with growth, reduction, disappearance. Yes, the answer is, of course, growth. How can you tell? Well, we all know that weeds have tendency to grow wherever they can. Now that you have established that proliferate relates to growth, you can determine more specific meanings by looking for more clues in the sentence. The sentence does not tell us that these shows proliferate like weeds. It also tells us that they proliferate like weeds in an untended garden. Just imagine a neglected garden, one that has been left to its own devices and it is unattended. Weeds will begin to grow in every part, in every nook and cranny of that garden. In fact, they will quickly take over to cause the harm or damage to other plants. So the phrase weeds in an untended garden is quite descriptive, and as such it serves as a wonderful clue to us to find the meanings of the word proliferate. Based on the words and phrases surrounding it, An active reader should have no problem to the meanings of the word proliferate. Proliferate in this passage means, I'm giving you 4 options: decrease, shrink, underestimate, play down. The third option is increase, spread at a rapid rate. And the fourth option is fail, fall short. The correct answer, of course, is C, increased, spread at a rapid rate. It can't be A or D because there are things that are associated with reduction, not growth. And everyone knows that weeds in an untended garden will grow fast and aggressively. And option B is not an appropriate answer because if you replace proliferate with underestimate or play down, it does not really make any sense. So in addition, you can tell that C is the right answer because the rest of the passage provides other clues about this very option. It tells you that reality TV shows are replacing other network programs. It tells you that they are popular. And it tells you that they are really earning millions of dollars in advertising revenue. All these clues would indicate that reality TV shows are spreading and growing in number, not shrinking or declining. Hence, the meaning of proliferate must be C, increase, spread at rapid rate. So this is the way we can find out the meanings of a word from the context. Now, another question arises in the mind of the reader, that how much context do we need for finding the meanings of a word? In previous example, you would still be able to understand the main message of the passage, even if you don't know or couldn't figure out the meanings of these 2 words. The first one is obscure or the second word is proliferate. But in some cases we see that your understanding of the passage depends on your understanding of that particular word or phrase. So can you understand the following sentence, for example, without knowing what adversely means? The sentence is, reality TV shows will adversely affect traditional dramas and comedies. Now, what does adversely means in this sentence? Is it something good or bad? As a good reader, and there simply are not enough clues in this sentence to tell you what this word means. But a passage with more information will give you what you need to determine meanings from the context. Reality TV shows will adversely affect traditional dramas and comedies. As reality TV increases in popularity, network executives will begin cancelling more traditional dramas and comedies and replacing them with the latest in reality TV. In the passage, adversely most nearly means mildly, slightly. The second option is kindly, gently. The third option is negatively, unfavorably. And the fourth option is immediately and swiftly. The correct answer is C, negatively, unfavorably. The passage provides clues that allows you to determine the meaning of adversely. It tells you that as reality TV becomes more popular, network executives will cancel more traditional dramas and comedies and replace them with reality TV programming. So the meaning of adversely is neither a mild or slightly, nor it is option B, that is kindly or gently. And based on the passage, you can't really tell if these changes will be immediate or swift. That is option D. Because the sentences does not say something about the exact time frame in which these changes will occur. Remember, a good reader don't make assumptions for which they can't support that very assumption with the facts. And there are no facts in this sentence to support the assumption that changes will occur immediately. Thus, C is the best answer. You may also have noticed that adversely is very similar to adversary, and if you know that an adversary is a hostile opponent or enemy, then you know that adversely cannot be something positive. Or if you know the word adversity, that means hardship or misfortune, then you know that adversely must mean something negative or difficult. So all these words share the same root, that is adverse. Only we see that the endings are changing. Otherwise, the word is having the same meaning. So the correct option is C. Now let's move to the next practice. And here we have some short passages. You have to read the following passages and determine the meanings of the words from their context. And I will provide the answers immediately after the questions. The first paragraph reads like, although social work is not a particularly lucrative career, I wouldn't do anything else. Knowing I am helping others is far more important to me than money. So lucrative means highly profitable, highly rewarding, and highly exciting. This is the first practice, and you have to give the meanings of this word lucrative to me, that what does this word mean. Now read the second short paragraph and try to give me the meanings of this very word, which I am going to show you after the reading. When you are in an interview, try not to show any overt signs that you are nervous. Don't shift in your chair, shake or shudder. Now you have to find out the meanings of the word overt. And I am giving you three options. The first one is embarrassing, awkward. The second option B, is subtle, suggestive. And option C is obvious, not hidden. Now I am going towards the third paragraph, and that is, by the time our staff meeting ended at 8 o'clock, I was ravenous. I had skipped lunch and hadn't eaten since breakfast. So you have to give me the meanings of this word ravenous. The first option is like a raven, bird-like, extremely hungry, greedy for food. And the third option is exhausted, ready for bed. Now let's move towards the answers, but you have to pause this video and you have to see that what options you select. And so you should read these very options and try to find the right choice, that what are the meanings of these very words, and afterward I will give you the answers. Welcome back. Now let's move towards the answers. The first answer is, the writer says money is not important to him, and the answer is A. The writer says money is not important to him. If money is not an issue, it is okay that social work is not highly profitable, that it does not earn a lot of money. So in this paragraph, although social work is not a particularly lucrative career, it means that the option is highly profitable. In practice number second, the answer is C. Shifting, shaking, and shuddering are all obvious, not hidden signs of nervousness. They are not B, subtle or suggestive, and though they may make interview feelings like embarrassing or awkward, that is in the option A, but the signs themselves are not embarrassing or awkward. And we see that second paragraph suggests that when you are in an interview, try not to show an overt signs means obvious or not hidden. So this is the answer of the second choice. Now we are moving towards the answer of the third practice, and the answer is B, because the writer hadn't eaten since breakfast, so she is extremely hungry. and she is greedy for food. The option C may also be correct, that is exhausted, but the context tells us that this word has something to do with eating, because she is saying that by the time our staff meeting ended at 8 o'clock, I was ravenous. I had skipped lunch and hadn't eaten since breakfast. So it means that it is having no concern with the rest, and actually she hasn't eaten since breakfast, so she is extremely hungry, or she is greedy for food. So these are the answers of 3 practices. Now let's move towards the summary. And the ability to determine the meanings of unfamiliar words from their context is an essential skill for reading comprehension. So that is the summary of the whole this lecture. And when there are unfamiliar words whose meanings are not known to us, or we can't determine the meanings of those words without dictionary, finding those meanings by carefully looking at the context, that is the message of today's lecture, that we have the ability, or we can develop this very capability to find out the meanings of the difficult words from the clues which are there within that very text. So if we understand those clues, it will be easy for us to find out the meanings of the difficult vocabulary from the context. So when we develop this very skill to find out the meanings of unfamiliar words from the context, it becomes very helpful to comprehend the text which we are having. So this is today's lecture. I hope that from solving these very practices, now you will be in position to find out the meanings of unfamiliar words from the context easily. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.